The monarchy in Spain under growing pressure. King Juan Carlos's abdication has revived calls for the return of the republic. So we ask, is the monarchy still relevant in Spain and the rest of Europe? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Hazem Sika. When Spain's King Juan Carlos handed over the throne to his more popular son Felipe last week, he probably thought his decision would help secure the monarchy for another generation. Instead, protesters across the country began calling for a return to a republic and demanding they be allowed to vote on the future of the institution. We'll talk to our guests about why the monarchy is under attack in Spain and elsewhere in Europe in just a moment. But first, Nazanin Moshiri helped set up this discussion from Madrid.
They are calling for change. A word you hear a lot on the streets of Spain these days. This is a movement born out of frustration with the political system, corruption and unemployment. And Spain's royal family, once so popular, is viewed by some as part of the problem.
We don't want them to think we are like babies, that we can't decide what we want to be. We don't want a king.
The king's son and successor, Prince Felipe, wasn't involved in the scandal that brought down his father. The monarchy is trying to change. It's promised only the top royals will have access to special privileges. Those supporting the monarchy have also held their own smaller rallies. They say a president can't unite Spain like a king.
For the socialists, for the populars, he has spoken to, governors, presidents from all over the world, no matter their ideology, while as a president of the republic might have issues.
And the royal family is also an international brand. It promotes trade and attracts tourists from the Spanish-speaking world.
We was a colony of Spain. So for us, the history of us is really close with Spain.
But the mood in Spain has changed. Many families were torn apart by this financial crisis. And some of the movements now calling for a referendum did well in the recent European elections.
And many expect their popularity to grow as Spain prepares for elections next year. But for now, these alternative movements have no real power in Parliament and the Senate, where a succession law is expected to pass easily. And in a few weeks, this man, Prince Felipe, will be crowned king. Nazanin Moshiri, Al Jazeera, Madrid.
Now, King Juan Carlos has seen his reign hit by a number of corruption scandals recently, but he was once one of the world's most popular monarchs. He came to the throne in 1975, just 2 days after the death of General Francisco Franco. He was known as a modernizing king who helped steer the country from dictatorship to democracy. But his popularity has taken a hit. Revelations about a $13,000 a day hunting trip in Botswana in 2012 were a low point. And the royal family's image has been hurt by a long-running corruption investigation into the king's daughter, Princess Cristina. Well, let's now bring in our guests in Madrid. We have Ana Romero, a royal commentator. Ana has covered the royal house for the El Mundo newspaper. Also in Madrid, Bill Bond joins us. He's a freelance journalist based in the Spanish capital. Good to have you both with us. Now, given the protests that have taken place in Spain and this recent poll in one of the Spanish newspapers that says that a sizable portion of the country would welcome a return to a republic, Ana Romero, what purpose does the monarchy serve for Spain in 2014?
Well, there are many reasons why most of the Spanish people still think that the monarchy is useful. It's unity and it's international representations. Those are the two factors that make people think that it should still be there. The problem, Hassan, is that in both cases there are problems. The first one, and the most important one, is unity. Spain is changing, and it's changing very fastly. When King Juan Carlos arrived in 1975, he had to cater just to one need: democracy. Now his son, Felipe, the future Felipe VI, is going to have a whole range of demands from the Spanish people. Some want independence, like the Catalans or the Basques. Some want a republic. Some want a more open political system. There are different wishes according to the age, according to the walk of life, the place where they have in society. That was not the case in 1975.
Bill Bond, what's your view on this? I mean, is Spain better off as a republic, you know, given all of these competing forces that Ana Romero just alluded to? The new king, Felipe, has a lot on his hands to deal with here, doesn't he?
He certainly does. And I think Anna has summed up the situation very well as what it is. Certainly there's a split amongst the general public as to whether they want to go back to a republic or want to continue with the monarchy. What was interesting is that a poll published in one of the newspapers this morning said that at the moment, if there were a poll, the majority would actually go for keeping Felipe as the next king and not switching to a republic. But the same poll showed that the majority of people want a referendum at some time fairly soon. It seems to be a matter actually of personality, as it was with his father. The monarchy, when after Franco died, the monarchy was not particularly welcomed by many in the country. But once the king had carried through the job, the transition of changing what had been a fascist dictatorship for 4 decades into a normal Western-style democracy, he got a lot of kudos, and he was very popular as an individual. And his son has followed him in that way, in as much as people here say that at the moment they would prefer, the gap was not that great, but would prefer him to run the country at this moment rather than go straight into a referendum and a change to a republic.
But Bill Bond, is this all about the monarchy in Spain and the personalities that inhabit it right now, or is this part of a larger dissatisfaction in the country with the establishment as a whole and with Spanish institutions?
That indeed plays a big part in it as well. It is not just the argument about should we be a monarchy in this age, or should we not be a republic, which many people think is more democratic. It is on personal, in my opinion, on personal standards of the king himself and of his son, and also the other things that you've just mentioned has brought discontent not just against the monarchy, but against the political system here, everything. The country is in a mess. It's beginning to recover slightly, but it's still on a knife edge. And of course, there's a lot of resentment, especially amongst young people, because of the enormous problem of unemployment in Spain. More than 50% of people aged between 18 and 25 haven't got a job. And on the generally across the country, it's still hovering around 24–25% of people are jobless.
Yeah.
So that has brought a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Ana Romero, I know you want to jump in here as well. I mean, obviously Spain is going through some deep economic problems right now. How much does that play into all of this?
I would say both feelings go together. On one hand, people are unhappy with the political system and how Spanish democracy has been growing up, maturing, but at the same time has been getting into problems. Corruption, first of all, and the two big political parties, Partido Popular and Partido Socialista, that have taken it all, the bipartidismo, that we, as we say here. On the other hand, people have come to see King Juan Carlos as the peak of that system that went wrong. Why? Because right at the beginning, in 1975, he was a man who had, as we say, a big nose. He could smell, he could feel what the Spanish people wanted, democracy. With the years, as time passed by, he seemed to grow away from the Spanish people, start adopting a lifestyle that didn't go very well at all with the fact that Spain was getting into a big financial and economic crisis and people were having a hard time. So both sentiments go together. The thing is, how is Felipe VI, how is he going to deal? It's an open story. If that number of people that in today's, in El País, in Spain's biggest newspaper, they said today, we prefer a king, we prefer Philip VI, because we think that a president, the president of a republic, could even be more corrupt than the various politicians that we're seeing right now. But we might want to be asked if we want a monarchy or a republic, a little bit seeing how things go. Because when King Juan Carlos came, he was handed up. We mustn't forget that. He was given the crown by a dictator, General Franco. He didn't do what the dictator asked him to do, but the crown was handed to him by General Franco. Nobody asked the Spaniards what kind of regime did they want.
Well, let's try and broaden this out a little bit now to talk about the situation more Europe-wide, because King Juan Carlos is the third European monarch to step down in just over a year. Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands started the trend last year when she abdicated after a 33-year reign. She was quickly followed by her Belgian counterpart, King Albert. Other long-standing monarchs have tried to adapt to the times. Queen Elizabeth of Britain has started handing over some of her duties to her son and grandsons. Bill Bond, I mean, what implications does what's happening in Spain have for the rest of the surviving monarchies in Europe? And we showed some of the similarities there in this trend of monarchies, of monarchs abdicating their thrones once they get to a certain age. Is that a step in the right direction if they want to survive in the 21st century?
Personally, I would think that, yes, it's a very positive sign. Certainly, I think that King Juan Carlos himself was helped to make his mind up to abdicate by the other two cases in Europe. Whether his decision will then be followed by others remains to be seen, very much so. I mean, each country is different. But in the King's case, certainly combined with the fact of his age, his health has not been so good because of the accident that he suffered while he was on that very infamous elephant hunt. And also, as he put it himself, he said it was time that a new generation came on to the front line.
Ana Romero, I mean, you touched on this idea that the monarchy in Spain has a great deal of international importance. I mean, is that something that you think is a Europe-wide phenomenon for the other monarchies, that this is very much the monarchy as the head of state is kind of a global brand for those countries, for Britain and the Netherlands and so on?
Absolutely, Hazem. I mean, Queen Elizabeth II, we all know her, we all follow her life, and we identify the UK with Queen Elizabeth II. I think the European Union, as time goes by, has in monarchies, but I must say, in transparent monarchies, in modern monarchies, because they have to represent people in Western Europe that are demanding. They want a monarchy that is accountable. They want a monarchy that is young, that works for the country, and that represents all of the country. Now, if that is the case, which seems to be the case because this is the third abdication along the continent, I think monarchies will be able to stay in Europe and to become really one of our strongest global brands. If you think about Queen Elizabeth II, how many people go into the UK just to visit Buckingham Palace? It's wonderful. It's a political job, but it's also a huge job from the point of view of tourism.
But Ana Romero, I mean, we saw there in Nazanin's report earlier about the dissatisfaction with a large section of the population with the monarchy, and they are demanding a referendum. At the moment, many the main parties in Spain are not leaning in that direction. Is a referendum going to happen?
Well, that's why I said, Hazem, it will work if the monarchy is transparent, accountable, and if the monarch behaves properly, which was not the case with Queen Juan Carlos in the last years. I do not see the possibility of a referendum right now. We've got Catalonia asking for its own referendum and to see if it wants to continue with Spain. There is no way that the Spanish government is going to enable people to vote yet on another issue as important as monarchy or republic. But we must keep in mind that in the last elections, in the last European elections, May 25, the two main political parties here got badly damaged. A lot of people sent the message that they're not following them anymore. So in the future, that's why I keep saying this is an open story. In the future, we might well see a referendum in Spain.
You see it that way, Bill Bond? Is a referendum likely at some point in Spain's future?
Very possible, yes, but not right now. As Ana has said, there are already big arguments going on about a referendum in Catalonia. The Catalans say they're going ahead with it. It's going to take place in November, and that is a referendum on whether Catalonia should actually stay with Spain or break away and become a country of itself. Now, that is a very big issue. I think that it will damage Catalonia and it will damage Spain if that were to happen. But it seems that the governing party there, backed up by two other parties with a fair share of the vote in Catalonia, are all going for a referendum. The central government here in Madrid say it's not going to happen. They can't have a referendum because of the Constitution. The Constitution does not allow such a referendum. Well, that's a big argument. At the moment, the Basques are now calling for a referendum. There's an almighty demonstration going on as we speak, where a chain of people going something like 200 kilometers around the Basque area, holding hands, to call for a referendum for that part of Spain.
All right.
So a referendum on the kingdom, on monarchy, I think is some time away.
But where does the soon-to-be King Felipe fit into all of this? I mean, if he's going to be a uniter, what can he do then to bring all of these competing forces together and perhaps stem the tide of all of these different calls for independence within Spain?
That may be very much what he's going to find himself trying to do. Whether he will succeed or not, only time will tell. But it's certainly a challenge for this young new king.
Yeah, Ana Romero, we talked about the fact that Prince Felipe enjoys much more popularity at the moment. How much does that work in his favor with all of Spain's problems right now?
Well, so I was just saying, it's the $1 million question, is how is he going to deal with all these issues? But the popularity that he enjoys is 70% of the people, according to the latest poll, support him and give him a good rating. It will help him a lot if he starts with this positive outcome. It's got to help him in the way because people are behind him. The thing is, if they see that he's not accomplishing the needs. If they see that he's not going to be able to unite, that's the main objective of the monarchy in Spain right now. Unite all the Spaniards, the Catalans and the Basque. How is he going to do it? We will see.
Prince Felipe's wife, though, is a different story, though, isn't she? If we're talking about personalities, she's not someone who's universally loved by the Spanish public at the moment. Why is that?
Well, that's another challenge that future King Felipe VI is going to have. His mother, Queen Sofia, is the most popular member of the monarchy right now. He's number 2, Prince Felipe. Princess Letizia seems to have a problem with the Spaniards because she doesn't seem to have the warmness that the Spaniards are demanding. There is a sort of coldness that surrounds her. She's a former television presenter, a divorced television presenter who married Prince Felipe out of love. So it was a beautiful story. It was a story that a lot of Spaniards fell in love with. Unfortunately, as time went by, they've now been married for 10 years. Again, the polls showed that she's the most disliked member of the family. The reason being her very cold attitude, her lack of smiling, and the feeling that she's not happy with the job that she's doing.
Well, you talk about the fact that she doesn't smile enough, and that's a big reason why she's not popular. But doesn't this fall into? I mean, isn't this more sort of meat for those who say that the monarchy is superficial and it has no real purpose? If we're talking about image and people not smiling enough and all the rest of it.
That's also a big issue because, as you say, people in Spain, I didn't mention this before, they don't like to be defined as monarchists. They call themselves Juan Carlistas, meaning they supported the king while he did a good job. And the same way, they will call themselves Felipistas or followers of Princess Letizia if they do a good job. So nowadays, what is it doing a good job? Smiling, representing the country, winning their hearts? It's very challenging, Hazem, and this couple really has got a lot in its hands.
Bill Bond, you were nodding in agreement to some of that.
Yes, indeed. I think she's put it very well.
So, I mean, is that going to be the challenge going forward then? Is that it's more of a personality issue than anything else rather than institutional? I
think it's very much a matter of personality, both for the king and the prince, the future king, as I said before, and as Ana just said, as Filipilistas or Juan Carlistas, rather than monarchist or republican. And it's got to be seen what this new couple do. I agree again with Ana that the princess does come over rather coldly compared with her husband, and certainly with her mother-in-law, the Queen, who has captured Spaniards throughout her husband's reign because of her human face.
So if we go back then, Ana Romero, to the economic situation in Spain right now, which is something that the Spanish people have suffered through for a few years now, if that improves, will the monarchy's image improve with it?
Definitely, Hazem. I think we have in front of us a year and a half of absolute importance, both for the monarchy and the political system. Our elections next year in November 2015, the outcome of those elections, they will be a perfect way of taking the temperature of what the feelings are towards this new monarch and also towards the politicians and the political parties that have in many ways disappointed Spanish people in these last years.
Bill Bond?
Yes, indeed. It will be very interesting to see how the election goes. The PP are certainly not popular, although they got the biggest single vote in the European elections lately, but they were really hit by these tiny new parties that have come in, alternative parties, if you like. But whether that will happen when there's a national election, a general election, remains to be seen. But I think there will be a dent in both the ruling PP's share of the vote and the main opposition socialists.
Indeed, a lot remains to be seen when the new king is crowned. But for the moment, thanks very much for your time. Ana Romero and Bill Bond, both in Madrid. Thanks very much for being on Inside Story. And please let us know your thoughts. You can join in this discussion online at facebook.com/AJ Inside Story, or go to @AJ Inside Story, where we're on Twitter. I'm Hazem Sika. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.